Greetings, people. Hope you're all well and blessed today. I'm here today to talk about my healing journey and the steps and the layers to it. I hope that this video can provide a reminder and hopefully some affirmation on wherever you are at on your journey, and a reminder that there is steps to it and layers to it. There's no one quick fix, no matter how much work you've done and how much you invested in it, depending on what you've got and had going on. There could just be a next level that you need to access. So I'm no professional. I'm just sharing my experience. I only share what I know, and all I know really in the grand scheme of things is my experience and not much else. And even that experience is questionable. So yeah, I'm basically about to tell you my life story. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the ride. And that there are some little nuggets that you can cherry pick that may help you on your journey as well. So where I started from in this journey was a place of complete blissful ignorance. No self or social awareness, no political awareness, like no ambition. I was very fun to be around. I think I definitely didn't feel like such a dark cloud, because I could have these kind of surface level, just light conversations with ease, because that was all I knew. Like, I have no idea what I was talking about with the people in my lives, but I certainly wasn't getting to know them. The way that I was relating to life and the people in my life was like a toddler does, just only experiencing one emotion at once, kind of taking people for who they are in that moment at face value. Which is perfectly fine, up until a certain age, but I was relating like that up until my early 20s. So yeah, incredibly emotionally dysregulated. I was quite hot-headed, would just fly off the handle. Not all the time, but when triggered during family debates, arguments, whatever you want to call them, I would just get incredibly triggered. And I guess I was operating in a place of survival when a lot of your executive functions, I don't know if that's the right term actually, but your decision-making skills and your level of discernment and ability to think in the future and plan and analyze is kind of just shut down. You're just, you're frozen in that sense. And as a primal instinct, we're just trying to attach to people. And if that attachment with your caregivers, the people who has brought you up, isn't there, or if it's a insecure attachment, then that's naturally going to turn to being to anyone or anything else, usually your friends, your peers. So yeah, very just no direction. So that leads to step 2. And this started back in 2015. So I was in my early 20s. Yeah, 21 or 22, I think. 21. Where I came across mindfulness. And I don't know how, this is kind of one of the things I guess I appreciate about the advancement of technology, because somehow Facebook ads knew what I needed. Like, I never spoke about meditation, even thought about it. Like, my mind just wasn't even in that place back then. But it came up on a Facebook ad just one night, talking about mindfulness, and it was an MBSR course, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. And the advertiser was saying, feeling this way, that way, all of the ways in which I was feeling, but didn't actually recognize. I was like, I'd just been sacked actually from this job that I really enjoyed. I was working in hospitality at the time. And some stuff went down with some friends. It was my friends who got me the job. And I went on holiday, came back, and they were like, yeah, you're not coming back to work here. And that kind of, I was so mad. I think at that point, actually, I just started going to Reiki, just started having Reiki. My mum would have it. And it was a session I had after that happened. I was talking about how angry I was. She was like, well, this is a sign. So maybe it was from that conversation that Facebook knew to give me that ad for mindfulness. because these phones are always listening, aren't they? Even way back then. So yeah, I clicked on the ad, and it was for MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is based around the system of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, but more meditation focused. So that was an 8-week course, and I did that. It's such a simple method. It's just breath and body awareness, being aware of your senses and your surroundings, and in turn your emotions and your thoughts, which I'd never even thought about my thoughts or what I'm thinking. I think I, just a bit dissociated most of my life before that point. So I did that, and that had a huge impact. After I finished, I just had this clarity of what and what isn't good for me. I was in a really loving relationship at the time, but I knew it wasn't good for me, and I knew it was holding me back, which I ended. And then I ended up moving back home, meant to be for a year, but got kicked out after a few months. And in that time, I was just saving to go traveling, like that was what I was working toward. I had no direction in life, no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to travel. That was that was my calling at the time, not knowing that it was a calling, but that's just what I was like, okay, yeah, let me just get out of here. I had no inclination to study any longer than I had to. So yeah, I did my mindfulness course, and there's a lot of research out there on mindfulness and its effects and its benefits. I'm not going to try and regurgitate any of that. Just search it, Google it, and you can read about all the ways at which you can impact it. There's loads of ways to access it online now for free without having to go and do a course. If you do have access to an 8-week course, like in person, it does make a difference. Having the opportunity to share your experiences and connect with other people, it is helpful. But yeah, go and read the research on that. And yeah, I just sorted my life out. I was living quite a hedonistic life. Lots of fun. Raving is fun, but very hedonistic. And I was using a lot of recreational drugs without any awareness of what, like, I could feel what, obviously experience what was happening to me, but especially with the psychedelic side, stuff like ketamine and MDMA, I had no idea on the deeper stuff that was happening when you're using these substances. I remember I remember my last Ket trip, in fact, that made it so clear to me that I needed to change stuff. And I was just looking at a TV screen, and it was turned off, and it was split in two. Black background on one side, white on the other side, and then the opposing colour, like dots or splodges. And on one side, there was a dot that was kind of like pushing the other dots out of the way and like rising up. And the other one was just kind of like getting the other side, the dot that was trying to rise up was kind of like just getting stuck with all these other dots kind of like getting in the way, and it wasn't able to move anywhere. So I was like, okay, that seems like my two choices right now. So yeah, that's what led me to I was living in a really lovely flat in the city centre, but just events just kept occurring that like kicked me out of there, back to my mum's house, out of there again, just out of the country and into this place, complete freedom. Instead of the things that were happening to me that were really challenging, recognize them as signs to just switch direction. There was lots of those, but one after the other, until I was eventually able to leave the country, and I just got rid of my stuff, didn't leave myself any kind of home base. I'm like, I just want to like see where I end up. I have no idea where I'm going, what I'm doing. I just booked the cheapest far away flight. And then thankfully I had family in that place, so I was able to even connect with my family who I'd never met, didn't even know existed until maybe like a year before. I was able to connect with those through my dad. So that space and just kind of being so, I was completely unburdened, like materially anyway. Just allowed so much space to get to know myself. Like I flew out with somebody, but they left after a few weeks because their lifestyle wasn't for them. They were a Virgo. So yeah, that kind of like unstructured, aimless floating around just wasn't really for them. But I stayed out for 9 months, just over, I think. And it was just like a long holiday, really. I was still, I believe, in this state of functional freeze, just kind of not, I wouldn't say that I was attaching to people, because I really appreciated the transience of the nature, the transient nature of backpacking. You know, you're only spending a few days to weeks maximum with a certain group of people. And I appreciated that. I liked it. But I was still very much like peer orientated. So I was going to these really amazing places. I was lucky to spend quite a lot of time in Mexico. You know, I went to Teotihuacan. But at that time, I was like not even in the mindset to do any kind of research about like the land that I was occupying and exploring. I was just like, just being there and experiencing it, I guess, aesthetically and socially, and had a lot of fun and really took in some sights and had some great experiences. But being able to just move as I wanted and be in places where nobody knew how I was. So I wasn't kind of operating from this place where I'm feeling like I had to behave a certain way, like I could just be myself. And just being able to wake up and think about what I want to do and what's going to feel good for me has provided an anchor to, you know, what life could be. I wouldn't go back to backpacking like that without any intention. But just experiencing that level of freedom has helped me to maintain that balance while living back in the UK in a densely populated city. It reminds me that this isn't it. You know, there's a big wide world out there, and lots to explore. And that just the mindset that comes with that, it helps me to not get so consumed in what's going on here. In the physical locality where I live. So yeah, that time is where I kind of really connected to my courage, my confidence. That I think the Power of Now had just come out around that time, and I remember I'm meeting loads of people who were reading it. So I think I downloaded a PDF version on my Kindle or something, and then I read it, and that shifted me on to you know, that kind of way of thinking. Like, well, I guess it was already there from practicing mindfulness, but it was like it kind of got me back into that way of thinking, and deepened that practice essentially. So 9 months passed and I started to feel a little bit homesick. My dad and my brother were on me to come home because they were worried about me, I guess. So I thought I'd come back home to visit. My brother had just moved to Manchester, so I was like, let me just come back, stay with you, work for a couple of months and get back out there. So I wanted to go to South America. I traveled through Central and South America. So that was my intention, but 8 years down the line, I'm still here. Which leads me on to the next layer, which is grounding and focus. So certain events transpired that led me to settling down here. It started out with being guided by my dad for the first time. He'd only just come back into my life consistently just before I went traveling, or while I was traveling, in fact. So when I got back, we were like really kind of like rebuilding that relationship. And he just guided me. He was like, why don't you find something that you're passionate about and work on it, get qualified in it, build your life around that. And I've never really been guided in that way before. the guidance that I'd received up until then, it was very much kind of not, it wasn't me centered. It was like them centered, like, this is what I think is right, which, you know, that is valuable. But then if it's not aligned with who is receiving it, then it's not really going to be taken in. I mean, I did follow it because it was, you know, my mum, my caregiver, and her partner at the time, offering me the guidance, but it didn't resonate, you know, so I didn't follow it for that long. So yeah, I followed that, and that's when I was like, what am I passionate about? I didn't know what I was passionate about, so I thought about it. I'm like, I guess, yeah, health and fitness. I'd had a gym membership and was, you know, exercising. Well, I started even before I got a gym membership. I was doing gymnastics, and being quite a insecure child, like not looking like anybody else who I grew up around. As soon as I had the words for it, I was asking my mum, you know, kind of like what healthy snacks I can have, because I think this was when I was really young, like 12, 13, just trying to like lose weight. And then old enough to get a gym membership. So from then I was like exercising consistently. So I was like, I guess you say I'm passionate about that. So I chose to do my PT qualification. I was never like a PT where I'm just like beasting you and making you want to throw up. Like, I would push people. I love working with beginners, still do love working with beginners, just to help them build that confidence. It was always a more mindful approach. Like, first step was just learning the breath, learning the body and how it works and how it responds to certain stuff. So yeah, landed in Manchester. Events transpired, you know, new traumas, new grief, but I was still kind of, didn't really have the tools and the resources, or all the tools and resources and experience that I needed to really process what had happened. You know, my dad passed away really suddenly. Well, not suddenly, but he got sick, and it just got worse and worse. And yeah, he passed away really young, you know, less than a year after reconnecting and being in the same country, and being in each other's lives. And I didn't really have what I needed to process that properly. So I didn't take any time off work. I'd just become self-employed. So I was just like shot into this state of survival. Just, it was a really, I mean, it's traumatic losing your parents no matter what happened. But yeah, the events surrounding the time that he passed away were, you know, there's a lot of layers to it. So I just didn't take any time off to process. I was like, let me just work, which, you know, is surprising that I responded like that, given the self-awareness that I'd built over the 3 years prior to that, from 2015 to 18, when I was doing, you know, the mindfulness and stuff. I guess, yeah, subconsciously I was just kind of like sprung into a state of survival. I guess it was like internalized capitalism at play. Like, I need to work, I need to earn money. I didn't know about the support that was available from the government if you need to take this time and you are self-employed. So yeah, I just like shot back into work. But then that was in August of 2018. A few months passed after that. Maybe I think it got to Christmas, and it caught up with me. So I was able to I was self-employed, but I was employed, but I was like semi-self-employed essentially. So I still got holiday pays, but I had to request the holidays. So I was able to wangle myself some time off in a time of year when you're not really supposed to, in the golden quarter in the fitness industry. And I chose to use that time to go to India and do my yoga teacher training. So that's a month-long intensive, and then I spent a few weeks traveling after that. So it was like just a reconnection, like going through the yoga training, doing, you know, what was it, the equivalent of like 10 hours of yoga, not just physical practice, but like, you know, the theoretical stuff as well. 10 hours, I think it was, a day, maybe even longer than that. And being on the land by the sea, and doing that kind of energetic work that you're doing, that was the next layer. Really, I was connecting with more like-minded people, so having more conversations about, you know, our lives and our journey, and the experiences that we're having, and also getting much more in tune with myself. So that was the start of the next stage, which is finding the words. So finished my yoga teacher training, came back to the UK, didn't think I would go straight into teaching, not full time anyway, but I just picked up one class in the gym where I was already working as a PT. And then gradually, like, my PT clients decreased while my classes increased, and that is this scales tipped in the other way, where I was teaching more and training clients one-on-one less. And naturally, I became more connected with the yoga world, where there's a lot more talk on this kind of thing, like healing, personal development, emotions, the importance of recognizing your emotions. And so I'd opened up to the world of self-help more so than I already was. Referred to a lot more reading, exploring my roots a little bit more. So not just kind of the physical, mental, emotional stuff, but the spiritual stuff, like learning about myself, learning about my roots, learning about the African roots and the indigenous roots of yoga. Though it's really hard to find information about that. Connected with a couple of teachers who I practiced with for a little bit. So yeah, there was a lot of words that I found from my experience. I was like really understanding everything that I'd gone through, more of who I am as a person, the way I respond to the world and to people, learning about attachment, learning about how trauma affects the body and affects the mind, getting into neuroscience and reading about that. Rewire is a great book. This breaks down Rewire, I think the author, there's a strong V sound in her name. I want to say it's something like Nicola Violetta. If you Google or search Rewire neuroscience book, something like that, it will come up. But yeah, this breaks down all of these common well-being advice, such as exercise, diet, mindfulness, but the neuroscientific aspect of it, so exactly how it affects your brain and your body. That's a really great starting point to, if you are a facts and figures kind of person, then that's a place to go. Like, when I'm reading facts and figures, I will read it and appreciate it and understand the importance of it, but it's not information that I retain, so that's why I don't regurgitate it on these videos, but I will always signpost you to certain reading and teachers who have helped me. So Rewire, what was I saying? So yeah, lots and lots of words for all of my experience, and I got to a point, I was like, so I have all of this knowledge, you know, all of this stuff in my mind. I found I was just like constantly psychoanalyzing myself and my own behavior and words, other people's behavior and words, and I just started doing my own head in. I was like, what do I do with all this knowledge? Because like it brought a lot of darkness, because when you see stuff and you have words for it, it's like you can't unsee it. Where I live anyway, in a dense city, it's dark, you know, it's a heavy energy, and yeah, all this understanding and all this knowledge came with a lot of darkness. And yeah, I wound up just kind of feeling frustrated, like, isn't understanding the key to kind of progress? And I'm like, but I just feel like I'm stuck now. Like, I can't understand it, but I overstand it, you know. What do I do with all this knowledge? So I just decided it was time to take a big step back from like reading self-help, big step back from reading. I was studying Kemetic yoga. I was doing classes for a little bit, but then Wasn't able to continue with those, but continue with the reading and the study side for it. And kind of like cross-referencing a lot of the other like more Western self-help stuff as well as my current yoga practice, like cross-referencing everything. But it was like I was doing my head in because there's so many crossovers and also contradictions. But I was it's all that was on my mind, and I was just annoying myself. So yeah, that came with some darkness. There was like more trauma. The lockdown happened during that time. So there was that forced stillness. In that time, I was in an abusive relationship, had a baby, experienced more recent trauma and neglect. So yeah, I just was like, but having all of the awareness and all of the words for it, there was so much to psychoanalyze. It was just like, it was a lot. So I was like, okay, take a step back. And also, sorry, I know I keep backtracking, I keep remembering more. This is the really, especially since landing in Manchester, this has just been such an intense time. Hugely transformative. And I keep remembering more key things that have contributed to kind of getting to where I am now. That I really want to share, because I know there's going to be a lot of people who've had a similar experience. But yeah, in that time I started using psychedelics, stepped back into using psychedelics, but not in a recreational sense. I just understood more the like mental, emotional, physical, spiritual benefits of psilocybin mushrooms. I do have a video on this on my page if you do want to know more about that particular part of the journey. I do have more to say on it, but I will get around to that eventually. So all of that, having a baby, lockdown, that brought everything to the surface. So then that was, okay, let me take a step back, need to integrate. So from that stage, what stage we're on now? Stage 5 was finding the words. Stage 6, I think there's only 8 stages. Wow, I've been talking for half an hour. Stage 6 was integration, and integration is ongoing. I don't think it ever ends. But it was that recognition of the need to integrate rather than keep studying and keep reading and learning. That was like where that layer peeled off, I guess, for me. So yeah, step back from doing any reading on self-help. I was reading more fiction, and just engaging in more like somatic practices, which there's, somatic yoga, somatic movement. If you can get on YouTube and find kind of introductions to that. But yeah, really just trying to get from my mind into my body, and like really, because I still have a lot of like physical pain in my back, which I know is from, the emotional stuff that I've been dealing with, because it started pretty much around when my dad passed away, beginning with like sciatic pain. And it just got progressively worse. And the only time that my back has felt good during that time was when I did a vipassana 10-day course, which is silent meditation, for 10 days when I was 6 months pregnant. Sat down for like meditating for like 14 hours a day, I think it was. And it's all, where it's meditation, you're focused on yourself and really paying attention to every little cell in your body. People have mixed opinions on vipassana. I would always recommend it as long as you know your mind and know yourself. If you've never done meditation before, it is going to be a lot. But that was the only time during this period that my back has felt good. And I was 6 months pregnant or 7 months pregnant. Because I just had all of that time and space to pay attention to my body, and not have to worry about cooking or cleaning or tidying. And I was out in nature. So yeah, somatic practices, getting more in tune with my body, going through from I guess from where I was finding the words for stuff, that's when I started engaging in therapy, different kinds of therapy. EMDR therapy was really helpful in processing PTSD, and that is, I think, talk therapy is always an important step. Just having somebody to talk to, and finding words and telling your story. But after a while engaging in that, I was like, I don't really need any help kind of understanding stuff. At this point, I connected with, like-minded people. We were able to talk about our experiences. I was like, I need something that's focusing on actually helping me release it from my body, which EMDR does. It works on the more subtle stuff that, words don't really, words help a little bit, but it's using bilateral stimulation to just help shift energy through your body, and it really does work. Read The Body Keeps a Score to find out more about that. So, during my integration phase, formed deeper connections to people within the community. We were able to talk about our grief and hold space for each other. And one of my closest friends, she'd invite me around for dinner quite often when my daughter was younger, which was really, really helpful. But sometimes I'd go and I just didn't have any conversation in me, and I'd feel really anxious. I'm like, I feel anxious because I'm so tired, or I've just got this and that going on, and don't really feel like I've got much social capacity right now. And she'd always be like, as you are, as you are. So that's kind of a mantra that has stuck, and it's actually learned that I can be as I am and encourage other people to be as they are, and without judging myself or feeling judged or judging other people for, not being as we're expected to be, which is like on 100 all the time. It was a really valuable reminder that we're human, So connecting with like-minded, and this when I recognize the need for community. I think having a child amplified that, but I'd never even, obviously I knew what the word community meant, but I've never really paid attention to a need for it, but really then started to recognize the need for community. And that brought another layer of grief, another layer of darkness, because, it's a cycle, because the world isn't set up for us to live in community. It's actually set up to take us out of community and make us live more, individualist lives and not rely on each other and, not talk to each other about what's going on. And then again, when you become aware of that, you just see it everywhere. It's all I was able to see. And even the people who I was having this conversation with about, building community and talking about the life that we want to live, we're not able to do it because we're all so squeezed and also conditioned to live how we're living, which is in our own individual lives. And we don't have the resources or the capacity, even though there's a great want and a great need for it. We're not able to show up in each other's lives as we want to and as we know we need to. So that brought another layer of grief, but then being so aware of the need to grieve. Tending Grief by Camille, Sapara, Barton, a great book to read on that. Talks about the need to grieve in community. In very basic terms, read it. It's an easy read. It's an important read. This integration phase has resulted in more cyclical living. I'm going to do a video talking just about cyclical living, just moving in tune with, becoming in tune and living in tune with my own personal cycles, and also the natural, global, earthly, cosmic cycles. And just living very slowly, very intentionally, and just being able to recognize and be with each ebb and each flow, and also recognize that you have to take everything that you consume intellectually with a pinch of salt, because there's the things that you read on how your hormones affect you and how we most commonly feel in the winter or in the autumn, and in our personal winter and personal autumn, talking about menstrual cycles here. it might not go that way for you. So some of my cycles when this has been kind of on and off for the past maybe like 6 cycles. In my spring and summer, which is supposedly, you know, like the higher energy time, I've been really low energy, really drained. And then in the autumn, winter, which is more like slow paced, you know, naturally kind of a bit more like irritable or tired, I've been on high energy. So reminding me to take everything with a pinch of salt. It's helped me to recognize just how much spiritual bypassing there is in the wellness and spiritual world. A lot of it denies parts of the human experience. Again, this is something that I want to talk about more in another video. And it's just helped me come full circle all the way back to where I first started and the things that I learned in my mindfulness practice when I was doing MBSR. It's just that pure presence. Even the practice of presence does bypass a lot, you know, because let me not try and get into it in this video, but yeah, I guess staying grounded in the present, but also recognizing that your past and your future does contribute to the present. So that means allowing space for grief, not trying to kind of resist and, you know, push the things that have happened in the past back into the past, because that's not happening now. Like, it's all happening now. Yeah, the future is a projection of, you know, your imagination or whatever, however you want to say it. But also there are things that you have to do in the future to work toward, in the present, to work towards your future. You know, so just integrating everything into this present moment has, yeah, it's just, I don't know. That's it. I think I said all I wanted to say on there. I think having words, finding everything, every step that I've spoken about has been incredibly valuable. It's important to find words. People berate and talk shit about self-help, like, which I don't understand, because I don't know why you wouldn't want to help yourself. But you can get caught up in that, you know, finding words for everything and then like talking about these words and regurgitating it to the internet without that integration phase. It's like it just stays up in the mind and we remain disconnected from our bodies and not allowing ourselves to actually feel everything. It's taken a long period of darkness and just like doing a lot of crying and feeling a lot of rage, like, but just allowing myself to feel it without trying to like rationalize it or talk myself down, or try and like alchemize to the other, you know, to the opposing energy. Like, no, rage is a part of the human experience. You know, we should feel it. We shouldn't suppress it. But yeah, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, then what's the next step? Because you don't just want to be like chronically angry. So everything's a balance. It's all a balancing act. It's all a dance around that balance point, you know, of feeling how you're feeling, but not kind of like just getting super attached and identified with it. So the 7th step on my journey has been expression and creatively expressing myself. If you follow me on Instagram, or if you have been following the journey so far, I've kind of always been quite expressive with my feelings. It's all I really know how to write about. I find when I try and write and share more kind of like intellectual stuff, people don't really connect with it or interact with it like they do. So from a young, I remember the moment, well, not where I was, but I remember the feeling in the moment when I realized that I am always going to be okay as long as I'm just myself. Like, I don't need to worry about anything else. And this is before I had any words for anything. I remember having that knowing. So that kind of brings me to where I am now. I'm kind of in like a transition between this point and I guess maybe like the next step. I'm kind of still in these two moments right now, in these two stages simultaneously. But yeah, And it might seem like a trivial thing, kind of like sharing my story online, but it's really helping me to overcome that inner critic. A lot of the healing work that I have had to do is rooted in not being able to tell my story, and my story being invalidated and gaslit, and just being told that I'm wrong for having this story or having these feelings, and just not being allowed to share them. It's like, it would be like, take that over there, that's not my problem kind of energy. So in sharing this with the world in such a public and raw and open way, it is so anxiety inducing. Less so now, because I've just been doing it, and like I've just been watching everything that arises, but I feel like I'm putting myself through this period of exposure therapy, like doing all these things that are causing me loads of anxiety. One of those is sharing my story online. I've been sharing my poetry for the first time, and I don't think it's that good. And I don't think I'm articulate, and I don't make these kind of like professional videos or anything like that. It's just me chatting. I'm like, who really wants to listen to this? But I'm doing it to do it because it's part of, I like, if you watch the other videos, I'm talking about how I am constantly questioning why I'm doing it, and it just feels like a calling. I just keep sharing, keep being yourself and sharing yourself with the world. And there's a lot of like conflicting thoughts, a lot of anxiety, as I've said, but no one judges yourself more than you judge. No one judges you more than you judge yourself. So I'm learning not to judge myself. I'm learning just to kind of like, even though I'm goofy as fuck, and I'm like really putting myself out there in the world and putting myself out there, whether it be online or just to the people in my life, it has caused me a lot of it's not that's caused me, it's people's response to it that has caused me a lot of, and my response to their response that has resulted in quite a lot of pain. So I'm just trying to overcome that fear of the resulting fear of being seen and heard, and perceived. Learning not to judge myself, like overcoming that inner critic, answering this call, just to keep sharing and just keep being myself. So just step back into shit. Like, I have been doing this for a while on and off, and I have, there's been so many videos like this that I've kind of made and then deleted, because I was posting it at a time I'd not fully processed the things that I was trying to speak about. I was still very much in it, and sharing a bit too much of my experience than I want to online, kind of like the ins and outs, he said, she said type stuff, which I don't really want to be doing that. And that may happen in the future. Again, I may like fast forward, a couple of months or years or however long, and be like, oh, cringe. Even stuff that is still on my Instagram, I look back, I always post very currently. So it's kind of like a snapshot into kind of where my mind was at that time that I really enjoy looking back on, but I am doing a lot of cringing, like, oh. So I'm just, I don't know. I think that's all I have to say on that, really. Just overcoming that judgment, and the fear of being seen. And this in turn has led to, like, my life right now is centered around joy and fun, so I'm occupying a lot of new spaces, getting back into and starting hobbies that I've been wanting to start for a while, or that I've not been able to engage in for a while. And that being a bit like, I talk about this on another video. What's the name of the video? I think surviving and thriving as a single parent. I'm wearing a purple hoodie in it. I talk more about this on there, so I won't get into it again. But in centering my life around fun rather than understanding, and knowledge and external stuff, you know, like trying to bring people around me, and focusing on doing the things that bring me joy. That is in my free time. Obviously, you know, I'm a parent, that brings me joy in itself, but really prioritizing that in my own time has just being a beginner, it takes all of your focus anyway, so you're not able to think about and ruminate about other stuff and try and understand other stuff. But I guess just like, if I can feel it has formed a new baseline, like my mind is very negatively geared. And over the past few days, since Friday, today is Wednesday, since Friday last week, life has been so miraculous. It's quite mind-blowing. So this, I guess, segues into the 8th and final layer of my journey so far, which is just feeling much more connected to the divine, God, Most High, however you want to, whatever you want to call it, them. Oh God, I'm getting sick of the sound of my own voice now. So yeah, focusing on joy, focusing on fun has helped me shift to a much more positive mindset. And I think that was really amplified by the conversation that I had on Friday. I filmed part 2 of the Gnosis episode. The first one is already out. Go check that out. It's called The Tip of the Iceberg. Me, Nina and Riggs get into it about all kinds of stuff, parenthood, you know, history, trauma, cyclical living. But we were short on time just because of things that were going on that day. So we went back and did a part 2 on Friday, and we brought one other person in, Manuka, and we really got into it. You know, it's going to be out in a few weeks after New Year. I don't know when I'm going to post this, but it might already be out. I don't know, but hopefully I will post this before then, because my phone storage doesn't really have my back like that. And I guess the nature of the conversation is going to be uplifting anyway. But I think also because I don't have that close a relationship with anybody who I was talking to, and just feeling safe enough for all of us to open up and talk about something so profound and so transformative as we were basically talking about parenthood generally, different perspectives, single parenthood, fathers who've been taken from, like, removed from their kids' lives, talking about stuff like that and the ways that we've dealt with that from all of our different perspectives is such an important conversation that not enough people are having openly. So I just think the nature of that conversation was really, like, I was just vibrating afterwards. We all smoked a spliff together, and it had Blue Lotus in it, and I'd never had Blue Lotus before. I know people use it in ceremonies for various things, but my heart just opened up all the way up. And the synchronicities from that point onwards have been insane, just like down to little trivial stuff like being given a tester for a like pre-mixed can of iced tea mixed with tequila, but it's also mixed with moringa. As if I would never think to buy those little cans, but they were giving them out to test in Sainsbury's. I'm like, okay, so this is the kind of thing that I really want to drink right now. I was going to a show that night. I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll have a little something to drink. And then that was handed to me, and I took one for Nina too. So yeah, just the conversations I've been having, the people who I've crossed paths with in that time. Straight after leaving the group to walk back to my car, I crossed paths with my daughter's dad. We never crossed paths, just because of the spaces we occupy and our different lifestyles. Like, it just doesn't happen. And it was a really nourishing and amicable conversation, and we were able to share a really long hug. And for the first time in I cannot tell you, a long time. Yeah, just so many synchronicities. I won't go into all of them, but one after the other. And this last layer is about prayer. You know, I've just been intentionally speaking to God, to the Most High, you know, first thing in the morning, last thing I go to sleep. And just any moment that I can through the day. It was following on from a conversation with a friend a few weeks ago now, where, you know, she was asking if I felt connected. And I was like, you know, I do lose my faith sometimes. And I'm trying to when I'm trying to control stuff, like there is an element of trying to control, an element of striving that is necessary when you're working towards a goal. But I can, in those moments of unawareness, I forget that, you know, all I gotta do is plant the seed and have faith and know that everything is gonna unfold as it needs to unfold. So it was kind of from that conversation. Oh, and she responded. She was like, "Well," and I was saying, you know, I don't really pray as much as I want. I was like, I don't really feel like I know how to pray. I just kind of forget about that whole that there is a higher power sometimes. And she's like, you know, well, as long as, you know, God is in your heart. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I felt like I could say that I do carry God in my heart and Most High in my heart. Even if I'm not sitting down and doing an intentional prayer, that is what's important, just that knowing, that belief, and that carrying. So that was where that seed was planted. I was like, okay, I do want to pray more. She was talking about how, you know, the things that have, the events that have unfolded in her life from just praying so hard for something that she really, really needed. Had no idea how she was going to get it, and now she's got it. And I hear those kinds of stories all the time. So yeah, just planting and watering those seeds to just reconnect to the divine, which I always eventually circle back to. So yeah, I've just circled back to that, and yeah, really trying to integrate prayer as more into my routine. I'm not religious. I do believe in a higher power and a creator. But yeah, I've just been asking. I was like, I don't know if anyone's listening. Maybe you could send me a sign to let me know that you know, I'm on the right path, and, you know, yeah, someone's out there. I say someone, I don't believe it to be a human or any kind of form. It's just it's a spirit, just talking to spirit. But I just send me some signs, you know, because yeah, things are. And then all the signs came all at once. And I feel very in tune for the first time in a long time. And even the way that I felt within myself, I don't really feel like I've had that much anxiety the past few weeks. Certainly over the past few days, the things that would usually cause me a lot of stress. Even the day of the podcast meeting, I was late, and usually I would throw my whole day off, my energy would just be out the window. I'd just been able to remain centered and calm. Things that would usually irritate me haven't irritated me. And even, you know, over the past 24 hours have been quite challenging, you know, with stuff that's going on in my family, and having to deal with that. And I unpacked it in therapy earlier on today. I feel like I've been able to, I haven't been absorbing quite as much. I've been observing. I can observe that it's created some kind of shift in my energy. I'm not as elated as I have been the days prior, since the podcast meeting conversation. But I was like, it's not consuming, and I unpacked it in therapy, and I just had the emotional release that I needed. And I'm like, okay, I took a little walk around the park, smoked some weed, got back into myself, and just sat and just let myself kind of recalibrate and watch myself recalibrate, just sitting on the bench in my local park overlooking the lake pond type thing, and just walking around the park. Any forward motion, especially walking in nature, has similar effects to EMDR therapy, because you're scanning side to side. It mimics what happens in REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, which helps the processing. So I was about to go into this is what it talks about this in Rewire, just how important sleep is. And if you're not hitting those cycles, all of the cycles consistently and frequently, and for as long as you need to be, then the impact that it has on your life is insane. But going for a walk mimics the eye movements that help in rapid eye movement stage, which is when a lot of shifts are happening. It's when a lot of repair and processing is happening. So yeah, I went for a walk, came back, sat and journaled and kind of organized this video, and wrote these layers down. And now I've been able to share it with the world. And, you know, however that is received by you, you know, if it's positive or constructive, then yeah, I'm just able to keep radiating out. So yeah, I'm surprised that I was able to do this video because I'm very tired. Little lady's not sleeping too well at the moment. I've been awake for a long time. But I'm glad that I was able to share it. Let me see. Yeah, so I think I said all that I wanted to say. Like, I don't believe that. I feel like I've had a snapshot over these past few days. I feel like I've had a snapshot of what it feels like to be healed. And I use healed in air quotes because I know that people have mixed feelings on that word. I will use it openly and freely because, you know, people say that, oh, saying that you're healing implies that you're broken and something's wrong with you. Like, in my opinion, we can be broken and that's okay. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with us. Like, things do break us. Being emotionally neglectful, being emotionally neglected or neglected in any way breaks you. Being abused breaks you. It breaks your psyche. It breaks more of you if it's physical abuse. Like, trauma in general breaks you, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. So I will use the word healing and healed openly. I don't think it's a bad word. But I don't for a second think that I'm healed. It's an ongoing journey. Integration is ongoing. Yeah, it's just a case of being with the ebb and flows and maintaining that self-awareness to know, and not to push yourself anywhere other than where you are emotionally. I think that's the biggest lesson that we need to learn as a people, just allowing ourselves to feel. But yeah, the world is set up to remove us from that awareness, you know, because it doesn't support capitalism. So I don't know the next step. I'm just embracing being here. I'm really grateful that I have experienced what I've experienced, particularly over the past few days. Everything in my life, in fact, however, I believe the past few days where I've been feeling all these synchronicities and connections and experienced them very tangibly can serve as an anchor point for, you know, if I do get to a point where, you know, I'm feeling consumed and burdened by life. It's currently right now December, which is often a very challenging time, but I don't feel like, you know, it's Christmas coming up and it usually brings up a lot of, you know, family stuff, and I'm feeling good, but I'm like, maybe I'm going to have some, it's going to catch up with me, and, you know, the darkness is going to come back. But I feel like, yeah, these past few days have provided an anchor into the light, essentially, in case that time does come. But I do feel resourced, like fully resourced to manage that now. You know, I've been on this intentional healing and personal development journey for 10 years, since 2015, pretty much to the day, in fact. It ended, my MBSR course ended in December 2015. So it was 8 weeks prior to that. So there's no one quick fix. So yeah, if you've listened up to here, thank you for listening. I hope that this video has served kind of, I don't know, a affirmation or reminder that there is lots of layers to your healing, and you know, if you're feeling consumed, you're feeling overwhelmed by the darkness, there is always other directions as to where you are. If you feel like you're stuck where you are, there are always other directions. If you feel like you've been taking other directions, maybe where you are is where you're supposed to be. It's all part of the journey, and just keep learning, keep watching people like me speaking about this, because I know that it's isolating. I know that it's heartbreaking and really hard. You know, healing is not fucking bubble baths and scented oils and massages. It's dark, you know, and a period of isolation is necessary, but we also need to relearn how to be in community and trust each other and learn to lean on each other. It's all one and the same, you know. It's all a balance. We need to be comfortable on our own in the darkness. We need to be comfortable in support of each other. Yeah. So that's about it. Thank you for listening and watching. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.